Hi there. Welcome to this week's grammar lesson, Orange Listening, Unit 2. In this lesson, we'll talk about the simple present. Let's get started. Today, we'll study the simple present tense and how verbs change according to the subject. We'll also talk about how to form positive and negative sentences, as well as how to ask and answer yes or no questions and WH questions. So, why do we use the simple present? Again, in English, we use the simple present to talk about things that are routine or something that usually happens every day. We also use the simple present to talk about something that is a fact or true. He always smiles. Again, something he does every day, so we use the simple present. To form the simple present for subjects I, you, we, and they, we start a sentence with the subject, followed by a base verb. Base verb simply means we don't change the verb. There's no S, ed, or ing. For example, I play football. If the subject is he, she, or it, we must add an S to the verb. For example, he plays football. Again, this is really important to remember in the simple present, as the third person singular subject pronouns require an S on the verb, but I, you, we, and they do not. Looking at our verb chart below, starting with the verb play, if the subject is I, to form a positive sentence, we simply say, I play football. For the subject he plays football. Now, if the verb is change and the subject is you, to form a sentence, you would say, you change books every day. However, if the subject is she, you would say, she changes books every day. If the subject is we and the verb is move, you would say, we move around every day. However, if the subject is it and the verb is move, we would say, it moves around every day. Pause the video, practice making some sentences using the verb chart, and then hit the play button so we can discuss the negative form. In the negative form of the simple present, the subject is followed by don't or doesn't, and then the base verb. In the negative statements, we don't put an S on the verb for third-person singular subjects. However, we must know the difference between don't and doesn't. For third-person singular subjects, like he, she, and it, we must use doesn't. For I, you, we, and they, we use don't. Again, this is to form negative sentences. For example, I don't play football. He doesn't play football. You don't change books every day. She doesn't change books every day. In the simple present, we have some irregular verbs. An irregular verb is simply a verb that doesn't follow the usual rules of grammar. We've already studied the be verb. This is a great example of an irregular verb. We've also studied have. Have is also an irregular verb. Irregular verbs are difficult because they don't follow the rules and therefore can be somewhat hard to remember. However, I'm sure your teacher will provide you with a list of irregular verbs. The only way to learn them is practice. To form questions in the simple present, we'll need to use the helping verb do or does. Again, the helping verb is chosen depending on the subject of your question. The helping verb is then followed by the main verb, which is always the base verb. Again, remember, base verb simply means we didn't change it. Looking at yes or no questions, we start with do or does, then the subject, and the base verb. For example, do you study English? Does he play Call of Duty? Again, in the first example, we're using do because the subject is you. Also note that study is the base form of the verb. In the second example, we use does because the subject of the question is he. Also, the base verb, play. Answering yes or no questions, start with yes or no, then the subject, then do or does. For example, do you study English? Yes, I do. If you'd like to say no, you must form the negative, no, I don't. Does he play Call of Duty? Yes, he does. Or, no, he doesn't. Again, do and does will be determined by the subject of the question and the answer. For WH questions, we start with our WH question word, who, what, when, where, why, or how, followed by the helping verb, do or does, then the subject and the base verb. For example, what do you study? I study English. When does she eat breakfast? She eats breakfast at 7. Again, looking at these questions, you see the WH question word first, then the helping verb, do or does. These are chosen depending on the subject that follows. Take a minute, pause the video, have a look at the question structures, practice asking and answering some questions before moving forward. Let's take a practice quiz. Again, pause the video and answer the questions, then press play so we can check the answers. Question 1. What is a base verb? A base verb is a verb with no changes. For example, play or study, learn. These are examples of base verbs. Question 2. When do we use base verbs in the simple present? Answer: we use base verbs in yes or no and WH questions when the subject is I, you, we, and they. Question 3. What kinds of food do you blank for breakfast? Again, we have a question, so we use do. We have the subject you, followed by the base verb, be, eats. Question 4. Does he blank football on Sundays? Here we have another question, so we have our helping verb, does. He, the subject, followed by the base verb, a, play. Question 5. She blank English class every morning. In this statement, she is our subject. Because she is the subject, we know we must use has for the answer. Therefore, C is the correct answer. Question 6. Fatima and Zainab blank a grammar quiz every Tuesday morning. Again, Fatima and Zainab, that's two people. So we know we must use the base form of the verb to make the sentence. Therefore, A is the answer. That's it for this lesson. Class dismissed.